Hi guys, welcome back to a new episode of truLOCAL TV. This is our first one of the year. My name's Irma and I'm going to be filling in for Steph K today. I'm joined here today with three very special guests. We're going to be talking all things entrepreneurship, the importance in creating relationships in business, and about the truLOCAL and ShipperBee Equal Opportunity Grant that was recently awarded to 4 very deserving Black entrepreneurs in response to the Black Lives Matter movement. And who better to chat entrepreneurship with than 3 serial entrepreneurs themselves. So today we have Marc Lafleur, who is our CEO and co-founder at truLOCAL, Jim Estill, who's the founder and CEO at ShipperBee, and Paul McLean, who's the COO at ShipperBee. Thanks for joining me today, guys. So I definitely want to start off by chatting about truLOCAL and ShipperBee and just what you guys do and how you came up with the ideas for your businesses. So Marc, if you want to start, how did the idea for truLOCAL come to be?
Yeah, truLOCAL, well, when I graduated university, I ended up spending 4 years as a door-to-door meat salesman. So a little of the inspiration came there. But while I was doing that, what we started realizing was that a lot of people were looking for value-added meat products. And for us, when we talk about value-added meat products, we're talking about things like 100% grass-fed, RWA, so raised without antibiotics, it could be pasture-raised. So there was a lot of demand for that type of product, but there wasn't a lot of options to get it. So, I had some experience with previous startups in the tech space and digital branding and digital strategy. So we realized if we could just take best practices from these other industries and bring it to the meat space, then there's probably a really good chance that we'll be able to fill that need for people. So truLOCAL, for the past 4 years, we've just really focused on making it as easy as possible for people to shop with local producers, local businesses, and yeah, that's pretty much it.
What makes you guys different than other similar services?
Yeah, right now e-com's booming hard. With what's going on in the world, I'm sure everyone's seen the Bank of America statistic where, we've reached 27% e-com adoption. So there's a lot of different businesses that are looking to get into the e-com space and doing deliveries. I think one of the biggest things that separates us from everybody else doing something similar is that we're really focused on developing Canada's regional supply chains. So one of the biggest things you'll know in the headlines are talking about meat shortages and things like that, and it really kind of showed that the national supply chain model isn't really foolproof, and it works well when it's working smoothly, but if you throw a wrench into it, it's game over. So for us, we want to connect these local producers, local suppliers with consumers as easily as possible and as direct as possible. So I think it's the biggest thing. We're just really focused on Canada's regional supply chains.
Love that, and that's exactly where ShipperBee comes in then.
Absolutely.
So Jim, how did the idea for ShipperBee come to be?
Well, in business, you need competitive advantage, and one of the things I look for is an underutilized resource. So I was actually driving on the 401 in stop-and-go traffic behind a FedEx truck, and I said, this is crazy. Look at all these cars that don't have parcels in them, and look at this truck taking up space on the road. What if we put parcels in those cars? How could we reduce the environmental footprint, and how could we use an underutilized resource? So that's how that came up. Plus, I'm attracted to businesses that are growing, and everyone knows everything is going online. Everyone's buying everything online, and it's a massive growth business, and there's not enough capacity. They can't handle all the parcels. So it needs our capacity. It's not like you're trying to take business from somebody who's out there.
Yeah, absolutely. Can you tell us a little bit more about how ShipperBee works?
Sure. So there's really 2 types of drivers. One we call an endpoint driver. So that picks up the business, the product at truLOCAL, for instance, and drops it off to a transfer point, which we call a hive, because the name of the company is ShipperBee. Then a driver who is driving anyways picks up at the gas station, on the exit they're going on the 401, drops it off at the exit they're going off the 401 to another hive. Then someone picks up at that hive and delivers it to the end customer. So it's basically gig economy. We've eliminated hub and spoke. So it used to be the way you'd ship a product from Guelph, we're in Guelph, to Kitchener, is we would give it to a courier who would take it to Mississauga and sort it and send it back. So the parcel's going 2 directions, and we become a little more real time as well. So you're doing a very distributed sort, and you can only do that because computers are now capable of doing everything in a very distributed way.
I love that. So if you're going to work in the morning and you're commuting from Guelph to Kitchener, why not just stop, pick up a package, deliver it on your way to work?
Exactly. Years ago, I wrote a book on time management. One of the chapters I talked about the power of while. What can you do while you're doing something else? And so while you're driving, you may as well be taking a parcel and making a few dollars. And we did a market survey, and 84% of the people who commuted for more than half an hour each way to work would carry parcels if you paid for their gas. So So it's very win-win. It's win for the commuter or the person who's already driving, and it's win for the parcel carrier, and it saves 73.1% of the greenhouse gas per parcel shipped. So for a company like truLOCAL that's trying to be good for the world and good for the environment, it plays with exactly who truLOCAL is as well.
It's a great partnership. Honestly, it's awesome.
Totally. Paul, how is ShipperBee different than your traditional couriers?
Well, I mean, if you think about traditional couriers, they are based on a hub and spoke model. So the hub and spoke model has a high cost. You have buildings, you have fleets of trucks and vans, and you have fleets of drivers that are all working full-time for the organization, and that has a huge cost to it. Because we are distributing our hives across a network and we're using drivers who are ostensibly driving in that direction anyway, or crowdsourced drivers that are just going to do the first pickup and the last drop-off, our cost of moving a parcel from A to B is substantially less, and we can pass those savings off to our customer. And as you know, as along with that is basically that we can save 73% of the greenhouse gas emissions because we're using the unused space in cars already driving down the road. So we really feel it's just a better, greener way to ship.
100%. It sounds like a no-brainer.
I think so.
Can you tell me a little bit about the relationship between you and truLOCAL and just why you think that it works?
Well, I think it works because we really are cut from the same cloth. I think when truLOCAL and we sat down and had our very first meeting, we were transparent, we were honest, we were focused on growing our businesses, we aligned in terms of what we wanted to accomplish, we aligned in terms of how we felt about the environment and how we felt about how our businesses could contribute to doing things better. And when we looked at all that, we were able to very quickly put a plan in place that says this is how we can work together, right? And when you have that level of transparency and trust, and I think we hit it off right away, we've basically been continuing to move down that path ever since. And truLOCAL's customers are benefiting from it because we are delivering parcels for less than truLOCAL was previously paying, and I believe with a better customer experience as well.
So Marc, I know that at truLOCAL, we obviously work with a ton of different vendors and suppliers. What do you look for when you're looking for a partner?
Yeah, so the biggest thing for us is just, like I said, being cut from the same cloth. Like, I think finding someone that can treat our customers the same way that we treat them online is really important, and there's not a lot of couriers that are able to do that. And I think something with ShipperBee that they've done since day one, I'll never forget when we had that first meeting. Like, you can really sense that you guys cared about your clients. I don't know how many times I feel like I've seen some of your office staff delivering some of our packages because you guys didn't have a driver on the road or whatever might happen. So going that extra step for us is something that really matters a lot to our customers. And then taking it a step further, I don't know the exact stat, but the fact that you guys are saving a bunch of 73%?
73.1.
73.1. Hey, everything matters. It all matters. Greenhouse emissions, that's a huge thing for us. And as we start really trying to nail in the regional supply chain aspect and developing that, because there's a total viable way to do that, you guys are the ones that have the most eco-friendly option. And I think it's such a great fit between the two businesses.
Totally. And for such a customer-facing brand like truLOCAL, what role does last mile delivery play in the overall customer experience?
Last mile delivery is everything. It literally is everything because you can create an experience for a customer online and you own that experience. It's however good or however bad you make it, however much you invest in it, however much you understand your customer, you can go above and beyond. When you deal with customer service, you can go above and beyond. You own that experience. You can make that extra phone call. You can send that extra email. You can give that credit. The way your brand looks, all of your policies, everything, you own that. But as soon as you hand that package off to the final delivery or the final courier, all of it's out the window, and you have to trust that that courier is going to take that same level of care and deliver it to the customer, because none of it matters if that box shows up and it's completely damaged or if it's upside down. Right?
100%.
So I think last mile delivery, as e-com continues to grow, is going to be a bigger and bigger part, because now, you know how it is. It's not a situation anymore where you'd never be in a situation where it was the courier's fault, blame the courier. You can never do that. That's bad all across the board. You shouldn't be throwing couriers under the bus. It doesn't give the customer any sort of acceptance of the issue, and it just makes you guys look like you're copping out. So I think last mile delivery is going to be probably the biggest factor in successful e-com businesses.
I think it goes vice versa. Like, the courier companies can't be basically blaming their clients for doing something incorrect that's prevented the package from actually being delivered. And I think the one thing that sort of extends our working relationship is I've always been impressed by how our team and our customer service group works very well with yours. So if we have an issue and we can't get a parcel to a door, it's a collaborative conversation. Okay, what can we do to solve this problem together?
Yeah.
Right, and it's not, well, over to you, you got to solve it, or vice versa. So I think we've really been able to extend that partnership through that.
Yeah, I think it's a lot of things too. Like, we'll talk to a lot of different founders. Like, it's similar to marketing agencies. When you work with marketing agencies, I feel like a lot of people just want to bring on the agency, then set it and forget it. And it's done. You never talk to them, you never follow up with them. It's like, okay, go to work and I don't want to hear from you for another month. Well, that doesn't work. You can't grow a business that way because obviously they're not going to be held accountable. They're not going to know what to do. They're not going to get the proper feedback, and you're not solving the problem together. Now I think as last mile delivery becomes more and more important, it's the same thing. Like, if we were just to work with you guys and be like, okay, here's a package, see you later, I don't think it would be as good as it is now. So we really do approach it in that sort of collaborative way. And I think more people need to be looking at it like that if they want to have successful last mile delivery.
Totally. I'll never forget that the one time that we had one of our customers actually post on one of our ads saying, "Your driver's awesome. I just met somebody in my neighborhood who's driving for ShipperBee." And then maybe an hour later, that same driver posted on a different ad saying, "I met a lady in my neighborhood delivering today," and they literally had a selfie in front of her house together, social distance. But he was holding the box and she was at her front door, and it was so sweet to see, to see that entire experience from them building their box online to having it delivered to their door. And it was a positive experience all around because of the relationship that truLOCAL and ShipperBee have. Paul, how has online shopping, with companies like truLOCAL, changed the parcel delivery industry?
Well, I think the one thing that's really changed a lot, and it was starting to change years ago, but it's changing more now, is the fact that a lot more parcels are being delivered to residential addresses. I mean, back in the day when shipment started, it was all about B2B, so delivering skids and boxes and large hand carts full of things into different offices. And now with the advent of e-commerce, and more so even now post-COVID, I guess to some degree, it's really much more pushed towards residential delivery. And I think the one thing that we know that we can capture as part of that market is because we're pushing our hives out into the community, our hives are really located much more closely to the end point that we're trying to service. So our last mile deliveries are much shorter, and we can be a lot more predictable, and we can accommodate that volume where some of the larger courier companies, they struggle. They're sending trucks out with 300 parcels, and then they're having to drive for 45 minutes to get to a neighborhood and then try to drop them all off as fast as they can go. So our model really lends itself very, very well to that residential delivery model, which has really been the shift over the last 2 or 3 years, and mostly in the last 4 to 6 months.
Yeah, totally. I feel like back in the day, it was normal to place an order for something online and expect it to come 3 to 6 weeks later, and that was your normal timeline. But now, if you place an order online and it's not at your door within the next 3 to 4 days, you're absolutely losing it. So consumers have a different expectation for online shopping and how quickly it should be getting to them.
Yeah, that's definitely true. And I think that to some degree, it's a false prophecy. You don't need everything within 4 hours.
Yeah.
And that's also an environmental impact. If you want a 4-hour delivery, there's a huge environmental cost
for
to that.
sure.
And I don't know about everybody else, but I know that I don't need my socks in 4 hours.
Yeah.
I don't know about you guys. But there's certain things you want to get quickly, and there's certain things you might not need to get quickly. I think you need to be smart about the choices you make and protect the environment along the way.
Jeff Bezos wants his socks in 2 hours.
Jeff Bezos wants his socks in 2 hours.
Okay, awesome. Well, I'm definitely really excited to chat about the Equal Opportunity Grant. But first, I want to know what's next. So, Marc, what's next for truLOCAL? Where do you see truLOCAL in the future?
Yeah, things move pretty quick here, obviously. I think for us, really the biggest focus is going to be on, I keep bringing it up, but it's so important to us, regional supply chains. And I think that we've always been moving in this direction, but with what's been going on recently with COVID, it's really been bringing it more to light. So for us, it's not only about being able to make sure that the most amount of people have access to the most amount of products from local suppliers. We also want to give those local suppliers and producers abilities to sell within their regions as well. So going down that road, that's kind of how we see the future being. We want to make sure that instead of having to go to a centralized hub, which would be a grocery store, which is getting food in from all over the place, kind of looking at the national supply chain side of things, we want to be able to make people go online. They go online and they can see all sorts of little farms in their area, farms, butcher shops, and they'll be able to shop directly with those farms and butcher shops. So that's kind of something that we're really looking to double down on in the future.
Cool. Jim, what about you? What's next for ShipperBee? You guys recently launched, and I know there's a ton of buzz around you guys. So where do you see ShipperBee in the next few years?
Well, we believe it's very audacious. We believe we can do to the courier industry what Uber did to taxis or Airbnb did to hotels. So it just seemed, it's so logical to take trucks off the road. It's so logical to use an underutilized resource. And I believe that we can make a meaningful impact on the environment by doing things the way we're doing it. And it's very difficult for the incumbent who is used to doing things the old way. So when you have an industrial farm that's producing 10,000 head of cattle, they're not the ones that you're going to produce for you, because they're used to doing it that way. Mm-hmm. It's going to be the others that provide your product.
Kind of like the Uber and Airbnbs of the world, you know? When they first came up, everybody just thought, you know, this is never going to work. We're too set in our ways. You know, hotels are the only thing, are the only option, and taxis are the only option. And then next thing you know, the entire world's changed.
Shipping is so ripe for disruption because of the adoption of e-com, right? So like, once again, looking at people's being able to even set up their own shops, looking at people being able to use the internet, looking at people looking to sell online, as more and more people go that way, and there's no turning back from that. You know, retail and omni-channel are always going to be a thing. However, the lion's share of that is going to start to transition more and more over to e-com, and with the rise of e-com comes massive opportunities for shipping and shipping innovation and optimizing that process that hasn't changed in a long time. So
totally
good.
Yeah. Well, honestly, I'm super excited to see what the future has in store for both truLOCAL and ShipperBee. I know that at truLOCAL, we absolutely love working with you guys. There's definitely an alignment there. So yeah, I feel like the future is bright. Speaking of bright futures, let's chat about the Equal Opportunity Grant.
Let's chat.
Marc, do you want to just touch a little bit about what the Equal Opportunity Grant is all about, you know, how it came to be and what it means for you?
Yeah, absolutely. You know, obviously, with what's been going on with BLM and the rallying cry behind, you know, injustice and everyone fighting for equality, you know, it was kind of hard for me to deal with personally, because I'm obviously a Black founder, and for me, we've been so focused on growing the business and pushing forward that it was kind of like when this crazy thing that was happening in the world it's gone past, you know, politics, and it's gone past stuff like that. That's a human rights issue, right? So it's kind of weird how quick it came about and how it was like, what are we gonna do? Like, what's our platform? And it wasn't until two of our team members came to me and were like, hey, look, what are we doing? Like, we need to do something. Like, we have a platform, you know, you're a Black co-founder, you need to speak up about this. And they're the ones who actually pushed me to really take a step back and figure out how we're gonna use the platform for good. So when we started looking at it, we realized that information is the most important thing that you can give people. So right off the bat, it came up with, why don't we find a way to educate as many people as possible as what's going on, you know, the injustices in the world, not just what was going on in the US, but just everywhere. So we set up the page, we had 31 different resources, you know, TV shows, books, movies, just on what's been going on in the Black community and trying to educate people that way. But what came from it was that obviously we wanted to do some sort of donation, and there are already a lot of amazing people donating to a lot of amazing causes. We figured if we're gonna put some money up, why don't we do something that we can actually have a direct impact on? So when we started looking at where we could have the biggest impact, it ended up boiling down to, you know, entrepreneurship is near and dear to my heart, so why not try to help people doing something good, help them on their business journey and help them along the way. And that's where the truLOCAL Equal Opportunity Business Grant was born. We decided that people had 2 weeks to submit a video explaining, you know, why they feel they deserve this, what they would do with the proceeds, and then our job was to figure out where we thought the $5,000 would do the most good. And then midway through, you know, got a call from Paul and said he was a little inspired by what we were doing and offered to match our donation, which was amazing. So it turned the truLOCAL Equal Opportunity Business Grant from $10,000 to $20,000, which was incredibly helpful because going through the applicants, I don't know what I would have done if we had to choose two people. That was tough picking. So,
how did you feel when you got that phone call from Paul, you know, saying that ShipperBee wanted to get involved and match the $10,000 donation?
I definitely had to it came out of nowhere so quick, and I definitely had to be like, did that just happen? Like, what did that was that a thing? And honestly, this is great. Like, you know, we've been, you know, great partners with ShipperBee for a little while now, and then to see that, it's just kind of like, these are the type of people you want to be working with. Like, it's so clear that they care about the community, they care about the environment, and they just care about everything that we care about. And this was obviously something to them that they wanted to get involved with, and they felt that this would be a good opportunity. And I think it was a great fit, and we're very appreciative that you guys came on with that.
There was definitely a 24-second pause.
Yeah,
right.
Yeah, I remember just being like, thank you. Let's start with that.
I don't know what to do.
Yeah, but I think that like the real winners in this are once again the extra two,
Absolutely.
the two winners. You know, because that made all the difference in the world. I think.
Totally. Paul, what made you guys at ShipperBee want to get involved with the grant?
Well, with everything going on, frankly, around the world and with Black Lives Matter, it was inspiring when I got wind of the message and I saw not only Marc sharing the program, but also his personal story along with it. And I really appreciated his leadership and his real drive to change. And so it was a no-brainer, obviously, to just say, we can continue this and actually make a meaningful impact, both short and long-term, on the community and on these entrepreneurs who really could use a leg up. And we really want to be part of this for the long term. I'd like to see all of the people who even applied be successful, and I'd like to see the winners be successful as well. So it was very easy to do.
Totally. What do you guys think? Is this the first of many truLOCAL ShipperBee initiatives that we're going to see?
Could be.
Yeah, we'll see what the future holds. It's looking pretty good so far. So
I love it. That's awesome.
The next couple of years, anything like the last couple of years, we'll have some cool things coming.
So before we end off, we actually have some viewer submitted questions for you guys. So whenever you're ready, we can dive right in.
Right, we're ready.
Awesome. Okay, so the first question we have is for Marc. Marc, what piece of advice would you give to an entrepreneur starting their first business?
One piece of advice.
One piece, just
yeah.
one.
Okay. Honestly, the biggest piece of everyone's kind of gone through the cliches, just get started, don't overthink it, just take it step by step, fail fast, all that type of stuff. I think the one thing, overarching thing, if I was to give one piece of advice, is that there's no rule book for this. And I think that's something that really changed my world, because I think a lot of people spend a lot of time trying to find that perfect business model or methodology, thinking that if they do it the right way, they're going to be successful. And I think that thought process of, there's a specific way to do this and there's rules around this, really stops a lot of people from getting started, and it causes a lot of problems throughout the process, because you're always waiting to find that moment of inspiration where like, oh, I've got it figured out. There's no rule book in this at all. So whatever you think you need to do, whatever you want to try, just get started on it. There's no right or wrong way to do it. To be honest, if you're starting a business, more likely than not, the way that you do it is only going to work for your business. So build your own rule book. That's my biggest piece of advice.
Yeah, there's no like cookie cutter way to do it. It's a grind.
Yeah, there's definitely, surround yourself with smart people who have done it before and get some, little hacks and tidbits of information here, but you're never going to take what one business did that was super successful and completely replicate that for your own business. So,
Jim, what do you wish you had known 10 years ago?
So when I see how successful we can still be in COVID, I realize now that I should be more zen and just realize stuff happens and we'll still be okay. And because my life has always been trying to change and whatnot, and going with the flow a little more, I think
Interesting.
has helped me to succeed, and it's not bad.
yeah.
Yeah, I like that. Rolling with the punches.
Yeah.
Marc, where do you get your entrepreneurial spirit from?
Well, I don't know. I wish I could answer that. I wish there was a way I could give like the exact, formula for whatever has worked out for me. I think once again, looking back on the whole idea, there's no rule book to this. I think there's a lot of different personality types that could be successful. I think that's something for me, it didn't come from a whole lot. Like I definitely have a chip on my shoulder, and whether that's a good thing or a bad thing, it's definitely driven me to where I'm at today. And I still have a lot that I want to accomplish. I think that I got really fortunate, loving parents, and I've always kind of had that sort of self-confidence that if I put my mind to it, I can do whatever I want. I remember my mom saying that to me every single day. So I think that the entrepreneur mindset just comes from the idea that if I very much want something more than anything in this world, and I can see the clear vision, and it's the thing that I'm willing to dedicate X amount of years to my life toward, that I'll accomplish it. And I feel like with that mentality, it's kind of led me into business, because, if I feel like I can bet on myself and win, I'll do that every day of the week.
Jim, are there any missed opportunities that you wish you would have leveraged? Any regrets or things you would have done differently?
Well, I think one of the key entrepreneurial characteristics is you can't focus on your failures. You can't focus on what you missed. Of course, had I known COVID was happening, I would have opened a hand sanitizer factory.
Yeah.
But and so I missed a lot of opportunities. I've done over 150 investments in technology businesses, and my thing is I usually invested not enough money in the winners and too much in the losers, you see. But that's all looking back, and so no real genius.
I like that.
No regrets.
That's right.
So the next question is for the both of you. Do you believe there's a winning formula for becoming a successful entrepreneur? If so, what is yours? Marc,
Well,
you wanna
the
go?
answers all got lined up to this culminating question.
No pressure.
Yeah, I don't think there's a winning formula, personally. I think that there are characteristics, to your point, that can lead to the chances of you being successful being increased. But I've seen some of the best, most, high potential people squander it. And I've seen people that nobody would give any sort of, like, if you look at their personality, their background, their character traits, their resources, their network, they're like, oh, it's no way, it's not going to happen. And those people end up being, the most successful people in the world. So I think that having that dedication to whatever you want to work towards is a huge part of it. But to say there's a specific formula, I don't know. I don't think so. But
Jim, what do you
prove
think?
me wrong.
I mean, I don't think there's any specific way. There's not one right way. But I think to some extent, entrepreneurs bounce up against barriers and figure out how to get around them. And they call it the pivot sometimes. Sometimes it's a big pivot, sometimes it's a micro pivot.
Yeah.
But that's what we do. We figure, oh, that's not going to work. Oh, let's do it this way. Oh, that'll work and whatnot. And it's, but there is no one rule book. It kind of goes with persistence pays, but it's also fail often, fail fast, fail cheap. So you don't want to keep persisting when you're figured out that no one wants to keep buying a specific product a specific way.
Yeah.
The thing too, I think it's in the book From Good to Great, and it talks to some of the most successful CEOs, and like the biggest trait on the successful CEO or founder is that they just never quit. Mm-hmm. Like if you want to sum all of it up, it's, to your point, it doesn't matter how many barriers you run into. You got 1,000 doors in front of you, and every 999 of them have a brick wall behind it. Most people open doors and stop at 10. That founder is going to open all 1,000 of them until he finds the way through.
And that part of it really is the key to being a successful salesperson.
Yeah,
you just
definitely.
make more sales. You get kicked in the shins. Go out and get kicked in the shins 10 times. That means you may get kicked in the shins 20 times. But then someone buys. And
I think it's a relentless passion for your business and to win in that business, right? And that's what they all share.
Yeah.
And I think a strong desire to make good, sound, quick decisions, but to trust their gut, right? And not overthink everything and not just power through it, right? Make a decision, measure it, undo it if you have to, but move fast, move fast, and have a high real belief in your own ability to be successful.
It's funny you say that. I was just talking about this, but how, being a founder, being a CEO, people think that, once again, to the rule book point of it, that they have to have all the right answers. And to me, I think it's not about having all the right answers at all. Like, and if you think you do, just give it up. Right. It's being able to make decisions, and whether it was the right decision or not, getting the best outcome out of that decision. So if you've made the decision, okay, you know what, looking back, and I probably should have made this decision, but I'm still gonna make this one work.
Right.
I think it's a big one.
Or undo it, or say, you know what, that was a really bad, and own it.
Yeah.
Right. Mm-hmm. Bad decision. Shouldn't have done that one, but we're gonna pivot quickly, and we're gonna now go down this path.
Yeah.
But do it fast. Yeah. Right. Realize it. Don't be afraid of admitting that it was a bad idea to do it that way, and just go.
Yeah. There's a point actually to what you were saying. That push forward on the salesman side of thing. I've always said this. I always recommend that. Up until the point wherever you're at, there's 2 jobs you should have in your life. And you should have a warehouse factory job, and you should have a sales job. And I look back on my life now, kind of talking about more of the kind of lightens, but I spent my summer in a warehouse, which I thought was the best thing in the world because, consistent pay when you're a student. I was in high school. But I also remember when I got out of there, I was like, okay, I'm going to, there's things I want to get after in life. And it gave me that motivation to do it. And then the sales side, doing door-to-door sales for 4 years will definitely give you some resilience.
So I'm going to add a third to that, and that is you have to work customer service.
Yeah.
Because that's where you hear what real customers say and whatnot. And going back to entrepreneurial success, I always look for competitive advantage. So is there a reason why your business has to exist? Mm-hmm. So for you to go, so I tend to go into niches. Like, what's the big guy do? How are we going to do it different? Or what are we going to do a little different? So you don't want to be commodity meat. You want to be, what's your niche? And you figure out what your niche is, and then, people want clean. People want less environmental impact.
So true.
It's kind of like that saying, entrepreneurship is like jumping off of a cliff and building a plane on your way down.
Yeah, that's right. Definition of that.
So the next question is also for the both of you. What sacrifices have you had to make to be a successful entrepreneur? Jim, do you want to start?
Well, I mean, people say, oh, you work for yourself. That means you can do whatever you want, whenever you want. The reality is, if you work for yourself, you work harder, longer. And so what's the biggest sacrifice? It really has to do with time. And, I've had people comment when I've replied to emails at 10:30 at night, don't you ever sleep? And no, you're kind of like, you eat and live and breathe it. But it's who you are. So it's still fine. I mean, I love it. And people say, is it work? Well, what is work? Like, is this work?
True. What is work?
Me being here, we're having a conversation.
Yeah.
Does that work? Oh, I guess I didn't work then, right? But you know.
Yeah, it's just more so, it's a lifestyle. It's just so, it's so much a part of your day that it doesn't feel like you're clocking in at this time and clocking out at another time.
Yeah, like I can't speak to that one even more than that. It's time. It's time, but it gets a little further too, because you look at it like relationships, people not understanding, right? You get the messages, hey, you want to come out tonight? Well, sorry, I gotta catch up on this, or I gotta do this meeting, and people don't understand. Well, don't you work for yourself? You know, can't you come out? Oh, well, okay, yeah, let me enlighten you on what's been going on in the past little while. But I think that when it comes to entrepreneurship and being successful, it just is, to your point, you know, the unrelenting passion. You've got to be willing to sacrifice pretty much everything. So look at everything you have, minus like your closest group of friends, your family, and like maybe the things that are most important in your life, and be willing to shed all of everything else in the pursuit of what you're going after, at least for the first little while. And depending on where you're at, right? I always, you know, talk to it where it's like, if you're a first-time founder going into business and you've put everything on the line, that's where it's like, okay, you've got to really narrow down your focus.
You never work for yourself anyway, right? You work for your customers, you work for your employees, you work for people who've invested in your company. Like you got demands on your business, which you're ultimately responsible for. So you're working for all of them, right? More so than you're working for yourself anyway.
Yep.
So the last question is for all three of you guys. No pressure. How do you define success? Jim, you want to start?
Well, it's because I'm old. I've done some work on my purpose. My purpose in life is to help as many people as possible be as successful as they can be. And so success is helping as many people as possible be as successful as they can. And I choose to do that through business. That's my tool. And so I'm clear for me.
Honestly, I don't know. You know, I'm 29, and I'm very much the type of guy that I'll set, you know, 3 to 5 year goals. And I'm very fortunate in the sense that I've been able to kind of like have tunnel vision on those goals. But the goals that I want to hit when I'm 30, if I achieve them, I wouldn't necessarily call myself successful in life. I've been successful at that block of life, that chapter of 3 to 5 years, what I wanted to focus on that period of time. But I've always said to ask a 30-year-old, and for me, like that's older. Like imagine if you got a situation where you're a 22-year-old, like what do you want to do with your life? What's your purpose? How could you ever ask someone at that age what their purpose is or what they want to do or how they define success? So for me, my definition of success right now is my small sort of 3 to 5 year goals. But I hope that one day I can get to a point where I look at it and look back on life and say success was something completely different, you know, based on what milestones you've hit. And so for me, I think success is different for everybody, but that's how I'm looking at success right now.
What about you, Paul?
I mean, I think success for me is building something great, but doing it the right way, right? I think if you set off to achieve some goals and you want to build something like a great company and you're doing it the right way, you're protecting the environment, you have a great culture, you're respectful, you're collaborative, all those things in that spirit with which you want to build a company. If you can build a company and do it in a meaningful way, I think that's success.
No, one of my favorite quotes is, whatever good things we build end up building us. And literally I've had it on my desk and I have it in my planner, and I just feel like it's such a great example of not just business, but the relationships that we build, like the things that we put time into end up building us as people and our characters. And I love the way that you described what success is to you. For those of you guys watching at home, we do have all of the information on the Equal Opportunity Grant online on the truLOCAL website on the Black Lives Matter page. So you can check out the 4 lucky recipients. You can watch their videos right from there, plus links to all of the applicants for the grant as well. So definitely check them out, follow them on social media, purchase a product from them, book a service with them, take some time and just leave them a positive Google review. Every little bit counts when you're starting a business, and these guys, know that firsthand. So do your part and support. It's a really, really awesome page with a lot of really great resources, and we'll also link that below at the end of this video as well.